So, today we are learning about plants. First, we are going to learn about plant growth and responses, and then we are going to learn about plants in our everyday life, as though you don't know what plants do in your everyday life. But it's alright. You'll have a lot of background knowledge. So, there are three stimuli that plants respond to. They call this response to stimulus a tropism. Tropism is essentially something happens, the reaction is a tropism. Growth towards a stimulus, so movement towards a stimulus, is a positive tropism, whereas movement away from a stimulus is a negative tropism. For instance, you may be positively trophic to Takis, but you may be negatively trophic to broccoli. That's all. I don't know if that's true for you. But there are three things that plants respond to are touch, light, and gravity. So they will either move towards or away from touch, towards or away from light, and towards or in the opposite direction of gravity. So that is what plants show reaction to. So gravitropism is the tropism to gravity. It's how the plant responds to gravity. They grow downward. The roots have a positive gravitropism. They move towards the direction of gravity. Stems have a negative gravitropism. They grow up, they grow away from gravity. A plant's response to touch is called thigmotropism. You can see how sometimes vines or trees will grow into fences. They curl around the object. That would be a positive thigmotropism, whereas a negative would be growing away from something because it touches it. That doesn't happen very often. Phototropism is how a plant responds to light. So leaves, stems, and flowers tend to grow and point towards light sources. This is called positive phototropism. You'll see this sometimes if you have a plant growing in a windowsill. The plant will grow towards the window to get closer to the light. Plants respond to these stimuli by producing hormones, chemicals that affect how a plant grows and develops. We've talked about hormones before. You have hormones too. Plant hormones are different than yours though. Auxin is a particular hormone that speeds up the rate at which a plant's cells grow. As auxin builds up inside the shaded side of a stem, that side will start to grow faster and tip the plant towards the sun. So auxin is what causes plants to grow towards the sun. Interesting side note, they also use auxins to ripen fruit if it gets picked early. But our next concept is how plants respond to the seasons. Well, plants will respond to the seasons in a number of different ways, but how do they know that the seasons are changing? Well, the same way you do. The temperature changes and the length of the day changes. The plants respond to the amount of darkness they receive. Flowering plants will flower based on how long the day and night is. A plant's response to seasonal change and the length of the day and night is called photoperiodism. A photoperiod is the amount of light they get during the day. Photoperiodism is how they respond to it. Some plants will only bloom when the night lasts a certain length of time. Plants can be grouped according to their critical night length, or the number of hours that decides if the plant has flowers or not. And you see you have three different kinds. You have short day plants, long day plants, or day neutral plants. So short day plants need a lot of darkness to flower. Long day plants need not that much darkness to flower. And day neutral plants don't care. They flower no matter what. Oh, here you go. They're going to tell you that again. So short day plants flower when the nights are longer than a certain length. They will bloom in fall or winter, because in fall and winter we have longer nights. Long day plants will flower when there is a shorter night. They bloom in early spring and summer as the days start to get longer. Day neutral plants have no care for what the sun is doing. They can bloom year round and generally bloom depending on temperature and water. So some plants go into dormancy over the winter. You see this when plants' leaves change colors, they fall off. These are generally your leafy plants, whereas your evergreens don't do this. Dormancy will help the plant survive the freezing temperatures, and they will start to sort of dry out on the inside to keep themselves from freezing. Cooler weather and shorter days will trigger a plant to lose its leaves and become dormant. So that's photoperiod, the amount of light in the day, and how cold it is. And different plants will move into dormancy based on different things. So that is our lesson on plant growth and responses. Now we are going to talk a little bit about how, or we would if the box was in the right place, we are going to talk a little bit about how plants are used every day. So like I said, some of the things we use plant for. We've talked about food, but we also, build houses out of plants. We use plants to clean the environment. We use plants to fix the soil. Plants are also the basic part of products used in everyday life. Medicines, paper, clothing. What else do we use it for? Sugar is a plant byproduct for the most part, unless it's artificial. We'll see what else they have for us. So plants are important in the ecosystem in a lot of different ways. They provide food and shelter for animals and fungi. The roots of plants hold soil and keep it from washing away. They can also quickly absorb water, which prevents flooding. We could use a little bit more of that around the city. They also prevent water pollution. Plants provide people with shade in the summer and beautiful scenery in the fall when the leaves start to change color. They also provide us with materials we use to make the things that we need to continue living the way that we do. People have found ways to directly use almost all plants. Green algae, which grows in water, has been used in science for research purposes. They also use it to thicken up some foods, as appetizing as that sounds. Moss is used in gardening. Sphagnum moss grows in a type of wetland called a bog. Over time, dead moss falls to the bottom of the bog, gets compressed into layers, and forms this brown-black material that they call peat. In Europe and Asia, they use peat to, they can burn it, and they use it to heat homes and cook food almost like coal or wood. Interestingly, they also use it to make certain foods. If it has a smoky flavor, they'll use peat. Gymnosperms, like pine trees and things like that, provide many useful products. Paper and lumber come from conifers. Remember, conifer means it has cones, as do rayon fibers used in clothes and cellophane. Cellophane being that clear plastic wrap that you put on your food if you package up your food and put it in the freezer or the fridge. Turpentine and rosin used by baseball pitchers, gymnasts, and musicians are made from conifer sap. Turpentine is actually used in paint thinner. It is a paint thinner. Rosin is used in all those sports. It's that white chalky powder you'll see they use for grip. Angiosperms are an important source of food, clothing, and medicines. People eat vegetables, fruits, and grains, or cereals, they're saying here, which are all part of the angiosperm's life cycle, different parts, either from the flowers, the actual tree itself, or the roots. Seeds of cotton plants and the stems of flax plants give you fibers that we then turn into fabric like cotton or linen. The sap of rubber trees is used to make rubber for tires. Not so much anymore, but initially it was. Furniture is made from maple, cherry, and oak trees. Also, the walls of your house, for instance, are generally made out of pine timber. Furniture is often made from the wood of maple. I already said that. I apologize. Medicine. We get a lot of medicine from angiosperms. Heart medication comes from the foxglove plant. There are also a number of poisons that are made from this that we use as medicine as well in limited doses, which is something we'll talk about, I'm sure. So that is what we have as far as the uses of plants. Answer the questions that I gave you, some of which are thought questions, so you will not find the answers directly, but I want you to think about the last two